Howdy, y'all.
Did you find what you wanted to find?
Um, yes, actually,
All right,
I
good.
did. That worked out
He's
well.
being technical right now. He's
I am.
doing the technical things.
I mean, considering I am Tech Aiden and also Director Aiden, it is only fitting that I look at the technical aspects of the direction of a movie that we're going to
That's
talk
fair.
about
That's
tonight.
fair. We took a few weeks after we saw this movie to discuss it because we had other stuff on the table. I was gonna say a different word, and I remember this is a family friendly broadcast.
Well done. I'm proud.
So yeah, we obviously the title of the stream tonight is Devotion and War in Cinema. Considering I have a degree that discusses war and you have a degree that discusses cinema, this seemed an appropriate conversation to have.
I would say so.
And especially just like it's Hollywood has been just awful in the last 5 to 10 years. Like, I think
with exceptions that were
with
notable but rare.
exactly. I feel like, and maybe it's nostalgia from when we were little kids, but I feel like movies were better in the 2000s, less formulaic, and Devotion took me right back
Yeah.
to like 2005.
Yeah, it's a nice tangent away from, and I have to agree to some extent with Scorsese and his interpretation and expression of his disdain for the Marvel Cinematic Universe existing more like a theme park ride
Yeah.
than what he referred to as cinema, which, don't get me wrong, they are fun movies, but I also haven't seen one in theaters since, what's the one after Infinity War?
Endgame.
Yeah. I haven't seen one since then because I just haven't been interested in it.
I saw the most recent Spider-Man. That was the last Marvel movie I've seen in theaters.
Can't remember if I don't think I saw that in the theater.
It was good,
Yeah.
but it was also a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like as far as superhero movies go, Spider-Man is typically like top tier.
Oh yeah. For Marvel at least, yeah, he's
Yeah.
top the
Yeah,
game.
I think Iron Man, in my opinion, is still the best Marvel movie. The original Iron Man,
Oh yeah.
hands down.
100%.
But as far as consistency goes, I feel like the Spider-Man movies,
I
the
will
Tobey
say-
Maguire ones, the Andrew Garfield ones, and the Tom Holland ones are all awesome. I don't know why they keep hiring British actors, but it's fine.
It is odd. I will say I've had a lot of Iron Man 3 TikToks showing up in my TikTok page for some
It's the
reason.
one with the Mandarin in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I forgot, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, all three Iron Man movies are good, and it really does remind you, and I think that Tarantino really just sucks at making a good point. Because
His movies would beg to differ.
his movies always make a good point.
Yes.
He himself is like incapable of speaking without just coming across as a complete wad.
I mean,
What
as someone, as two writers, you should know that, and like you're a little bit better considering you have experience.
Speaking is my job.
Yes, exactly. For people who speaking is not their job, but they are inherently writers and like people with vision or whatever, you should know that writing
yeah.
is rewriting.
Yeah, I know.
It's-
I know. It's just, I think what the point he was trying to make could be very well illustrated if you look at Iron Man as opposed to maybe Captain America or for Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I
I didn't even see that one. To be honest
me
with you.
neither. Even down to like Black Panther. And I think I think Samuel L. Jackson made a good point in saying Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther.
Yeah.
He is King T'Challa.
Yeah.
At the same time,
All right, maybe he was.
yeah,
It's a
he'd
shame.
gone way too soon. And the fact that he kept filming those movies while
The fact that he didn't
dying
tell
of
anybody,
cancer,
yeah, it's like,
absolutely incredible. What a legacy to leave.
yeah,
But I think the point that Tarantino was trying to make, I think, is look at Iron Man as opposed to any of the other later movies. The script, yeah, it's the first one they came out with. The script's the same formula as basically every Marvel intro movie for each superhero.
yeah,
Robert Downey Jr., massive superstar. Like, genuine great actor, top of the list, like, one of the best actors
yeah,
in the game today. I think the reason that Iron Man hits so hard is that his performance carries what would otherwise be a B or C list movie.
yeah. Well,
I mean, there's a reason superhero movies were so consistently cheesy and campy and B-list and, you know, not Marvel.
Yeah. Well, I will say part of what it is obviously his performance is fantastic, but the story and the character work together in unison so that there is a large dichotomy between the innate like being of the character of Tony Stark versus the responsibility that he thus has to take on.
Yeah.
So when you start out with somebody who really is kind of immature and doesn't really care and is just very sarcastic, that's a fun character in and of itself.
Yeah.
But when you put them in a situation that requires them to inevitably end up changing to become more responsible, caring, and warm-hearted, but still retain that level of sarcasm and narcissism, it's a really good dynamic. That
but you need a good actor to pull it off.
You need a good actor, but unlike a lot of other characters, that gives you a very broad range and spectrum with which to play, and you need a good actor to play that. But something like Thor, where
he does not change.
He doesn't change. Well, it changes a little bit, but the thing is, his character is so much smaller in scope. His character is brute, kind of like single and dumb-minded, and has to learn to appreciate humanity. But he's not really it's not a broad range enough. It's like, okay, that's a small scope character change, whereas when you have somebody who is on a much larger spectrum, you have a lot more room to play. It's a bigger sandbox to build castles in. Anyway.
Yeah. But the actor is very important.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what Hollywood has been losing lately. And you're seeing it, and I think that the point is being illustrated though. Top Gun Maverick. If you made that movie without Tom Cruise, it would suck. Like, it would not be the same film.
It would not have taken as many people to the theaters.
Would it have been good? Yeah. It would have been a fine movie. It would not have been the best-selling movie of however many years since Endgame came out.
Yeah.
It would not be up there with Endgame and Avatar and, like, all of those films because Tom Cruise was in it.
Yes.
And I think we're starting to see that come back. I think we're starting to see the craft of filmmaking come back. And it's doing it in a very serious sense with war movies, like Maverick, like most recently Devotion.
Yeah, even before then, 1917.
Yeah, and this 1917 was great.
Yeah,
I love that movie. But what really struck me with Devotion wasn't the cinematography. It was beautiful. Cinematography was beautiful.
Yes, it was.
Story was solid. The dialogue was good. The skill of the actors involved was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Every single actor felt like they had their own personality. Every character felt like they had their own personality. The actors did not seem like they were just kind of there to play a role.
No.
And especially with the main cast, but even the supporting cast. Like, I will say, it is impossible to watch that movie and not be like, that's Joe Jonas.
Yeah.
But outside of him, Glenn Powell put on an amazing performance.
Oh, extremely.
John Majors, amazing performance. And it really placed you in the film.
Yeah.
It had that same level of visceral, like, you know, you're there as that D-Day scene in Saving Private Ryan. You know, which, of course, Saving Private Ryan was like changed the game in its own right because nobody ever done that on camera. But I think, you know, seeing... I can't have enough praise for Devotion as a movie.
Yeah.
We went into that theater expecting Top Gun in Korea.
Yep.
And what we walked away with was, oh my gosh, this is one of the best war movies of all time.
Yeah.
And it's barely even about the war.
And it's a shame because I think that hindered it because I think due to the fact that Glenn Powell's in both and due to the fact that it's another war-playing movie, the marketing for the film was not ideal for what the movie actually was.
Yeah, but I think that the marketing was about as much as they could do to make people come see it.
That's fair.
Sometimes you gotta fib a little bit, you know, because here's the thing. In today's culture, if you make a movie and you're like, all right, guys, we're going to go see a movie tonight, ready? It's about the Korean War. All right, okay. It's about pilots in the Korean War. Oh, okay. You know, this is pretty cool. This is good. You know, it involves dogfights with fighter jets where Corsairs are the American planes. Oh, all right, okay. And it's about racism. Everyone's walking out the door. Like,
I I feel like a lot of movie-going audiences nowadays, especially in the culture that we have, would be more intrigued to see a movie that plays with race, especially as subtly and well as this one did.
That's the thing, though. I think it would play very well with one crowd.
Fair.
And another crowd would absolutely refuse to see it if it was billed as a movie about racism in the Korean War.
Fair. I mean,
Probably because they've been beaten over the head with movies about social justice for 10 years now.
Yeah. I just think that the marketing taking us, making it seem a little bit more like Top Gun probably hindered it, because a lot of people were probably like, it's just another Top Gun.
True.
But not. Why would I want to go see that?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise isn't even in it. Like,
Yeah. I will say, though, Glenn Powell is,
he's a great actor.
He's doing... I think he's on his way up to the top right now. He has been doing a phenomenal job. And what I thought was really interesting, I was expecting that he was basically going to be playing the same character.
Yeah.
In Devotion that he plays in Top Gun.
Completely different.
Not at all. Totally different character.
Yeah.
Shows a ton of range. You know, a lot of people get typecast, and maybe being the pilot movie guy is typecasting, but he isn't. In Top Gun, he's the bully that needs to be humbled.
Yeah.
In Devotion, he's top of the class, like great fighter pilot, does everything by the book, and needs to learn how to work within the system.
Yeah.
Rather than working for the system.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's a really... We'll get into the plot without spoilers to some extent in a little bit, but I also do want to highlight Jonathan Majors, who plays... it's not the main character, but it is the main character of the story with which it happens.
Yeah.
And that is about... Let me just make sure I'm going to get the name right. Because it's based off of a true story. Glenn Powell plays a character named Tom Hudner, who is a real person.
Yep.
And it's about...
That's the other thing about this one, is that unlike Top Gun, it's based on true story.
Yes.
Everybody in it is a real person that existed.
Yes. And the main real story within the story is about a pilot named Jesse Brown, who was the first black aviator for an American military branch.
Was he the first?
Mm-hmm. That's the whole...
I didn't realize he was the first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why he was big. And I mean, it's a matter of historical record, but I won't tell you what happens at the end of the movie for the sake of just the fact if you want to watch it. I didn't know exactly what happened. I knew it was based on true story.
I knew it was based off true story. I did not know the fate of any character.
Yeah, it's better if you don't know.
Yeah, I would recommend not looking up the story before you go to watch it. It is very touching.
Yes.
When you go in there, not knowing anything about any characters, they did a very good job, and it didn't feel formulaic at all.
No.
It felt like, and a lot of people online, I was reading some reviews, a lot of people said they thought it was slow or anticlimactic. That's, I think, the Marvel effect, is everybody's expecting every movie that comes out to be, some intense epic climax where there's a huge battle and, there's these fights and people die and the good guys always win.
Well, I think
that's just not what the story is about.
Well, I think that speaks to the conditioning of audiences nowadays. Yeah. And I don't think that people would be quick to blame social media and things like TikTok, where short form content is, designed for people with short attention spans. But I think in reality, it's more along the lines that things like subtlety and, deeper stories like this, they are not as entertaining as a Marvel movie.
You have to. You go to see a Marvel movie, you're going to be entertained. You go to see this, you're going to think.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is an artful film about a really serious topic that is taken seriously, and it's not like hit you over the head, which is what you might expect. But it's like, and that's the thing that he and I said when we literally walked out of the theater. We were like, that might be the most nuanced take on race in a film we've ever seen.
It was by far, that was the most important aspect of the movie for me, was the way this movie handles very real racism against somebody who beat all the odds to get where he was. Yeah. Like, Jesse Brown, the story about him is the stuff they put him through, the stuff he dealt with, even from his own squadron, is insane.
Yeah.
But at no point in the movie do you feel like you're being given a lecture.
Yeah.
Even when you're being given a lecture,
You just
you are given a lecture at one
Yes.
point through another character getting a lecture.
yeah
It doesn't feel like you're being beaten over the head
Yeah.
with it.
it feels earned.
Yeah, it's not, I'm a human being too. It's, this is what I deal with and this is how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
It is not it doesn't feel like it was written by an HR department.
Yeah, and it hits that much harder because you have seen all of that build up to that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and the way the conversation's handled, it just feels very realistic in the sense of this character has just kind of resigned to the point where it's like, this is what I have to, this is my life,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I have to deal with, and you have to understand that. And the big crux of the film, and I think why it impacted us so much, is because the main character is white, but the best friend throughout the film and the side character is black, and they don't put them at odds, as you would imagine a lot of films do, where the white character is automatically racist. No, the white character from the outset
Is very not racist.
is very not
He's,
racist.
like, makes an immediate attempt to
Yes.
connect with Jesse.
And is very supportive and things like that. But it's his attempts to be supportive that then cause certain rifts.
Yeah.
And it's essentially for two guys who are not racist, who kind of are in
Speak
similar
for yourself,
Yeah,
sir.
but like it's informative for us as well, because like we don't all go through experiences like this where you cause a problem unintentionally, but it like vicariously it's interesting because it's like, yeah, as much as you may think you're doing the right thing in a certain situation, you don't have enough context to know whether that's really right. So the best thing you can do is just listen to what anyone else is saying. Is going to help them the most, and be respectful of that and do as they ask. And I think that was what was really an interesting and fresh take, because it was about someone who wanted to help but didn't know how, and then essentially had to be educated. It's like, there's really not much you can do, but do this.
And and I think like the way that they handled it, not having it be, not putting it front and center, the actual racism itself.
Yeah.
But the way it made Jesse feel.
Yeah.
The way that it made his friends feel. Things like that, where you can. It's just so common now that when there's a social topic, it's just on the nose.
Yeah.
And there's no nuance to it. There's no, further explanation. It's just, this is wrong, and we're gonna tell you it's wrong.
Yeah.
No, this very much put you in the position to be like, oh, that's what that's like.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because we're never gonna experience 1950s racism towards
No.
black people. That's not gonna happen.
No.
There's absolutely people who are prejudiced against white people, Asian people, black people. Like, every single race is probably going to experience some form of prejudice at some point in their lives.
Yep.
That's something, that specific one, we're never going to get. That puts you in their shoes. It puts you you're in the seat, you're experiencing it
Yep.
in the most empathetic way you can.
Yeah.
And I think that the writing was just phenomenal. That it was some of the best writing I've seen for a movie.
Oh yeah.
It was never the kind of thing where you felt like it was too much.
Yeah.
It was just good thing, bad thing, very, very nuanced, very, very real.
Yeah.
That, I think everybody wants to think of the 1950s that you had, every white person hated every black person, and every black person was just doing their best to try and, just prove himself to whitey, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so Jesse doesn't feel like he has to prove anything to anybody.
No.
He's proven himself. He knows what he's doing, and he's confident. And for him, it's there are scenes where you can tell that he's definitely a role model to some of the black sailors.
Yeah.
And
that's explicitly, there's a scene where that is explicitly stated.
The way he handles it is, there's no Malcolm X style lecture or empowerment speech. It's just humility and honor and integrity, and I mean the movie's aptly named.
Yeah.
Like the entire centerpiece is people who are devoted to one another, and how that crosses sex, race, age, rank, all these things. Because you see people who are much higher rank than Jesse. Jesse's an ensign.
Yeah.
You see people who are much higher rank than him who respect him, who are horrible to him. You see people who are below him who respect him and are horrible to him. You see people who are female, male. You see people who are in his squad. Like,
Yep.
and there's good and bad. It's not black and white, ironically.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just so phenomenally handled, and all while doing it in an utterly chaotic setting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when they finally throw you into the ground war in Korea, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
because we're so used to Vietnam movies and World War II movies, and up into the '90s, you've got Black Hawk Down, you've got
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge, and we're so used to movies taking place in these three specific eras. We've started to see World War One crop up with 1917 and The King's Man.
And then recently, I haven't watched the new one yet, but
All Quiet.
All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah.
Starting to see that pop up. The Korean War is referred to as America's forgotten war because it's just not talked about in most media. They throw you into the battle at Chosin Reservoir, and it is, you immediately realize, oh, this is World War II all over again.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Americans rolling not the Vietnamese, the Americans rolling the Koreans, and it wasn't, just like, it doesn't show the Americans as particularly powerful.
No.
It shows us as being actually quite overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you never once, that's the other thing that I think that they took from Top Gun, and I think it was smart.
Mm-hmm.
Top Gun never names. The original doesn't, and Maverick doesn't name the enemy.
Yeah.
Most movies do, especially historical ones. This names the enemy. You know it's the North Koreans and the Chinese. But I don't think there's one moment where you see a face.
Nope.
You don't see the face of any of the Chinese soldiers.
The closest moment you see is when, on the first battle run that they do along the river, there's an anti-aircraft gun mounted to the back of a truck that backs up towards the river, and you see that there are 3 men operating it. But the focus is on the end of the barrel, so all 3 of their faces are out of focus.
Yep.
So you can kind of make it out, but at no point do you see an actual face of an enemy.
You know they're Chinese, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And you know they're Chinese because they're on the Chinese side of the river.
Yes.
So, I mean, just in every way, the movie focused on all the right things, didn't make you feel like you were being preached to.
Yeah.
Regardless of political affiliation, it's not going to make you feel like, like this movie's not for you, which I think so many movies now on both sides of that aisle do.
Yeah.
But, it's just really, I can't recommend it enough. But I think, you know more about the cinematography and all that. So if you want to discuss, like, I would guess that your favorite scene probably was the one along the river.
I'm just replaying certain elements of the movie within my head, and I think my favorite shot, which goes against the advice of Roger Deakins, who, for those of you who may not know, he is like the most prominent cinematographer in Hollywood at this current time. He did this cinematography for 1917. He's done a number of different films. He's huge. If you look him up, you'll be like, oh my god, this makes a lot of sense. One of the quotes that he is known for saying is that in great cinematography, you shouldn't have a film where you can say that was a great shot, because at least in his perspective,
every shot should be a great shot.
Not even that. It's that it should all be one cohesive thing, where every shot should fit the context of the story, of the characters, of everything. It should all be like a quilt on a bed that you've handmade from different patches of things over your life. This is not his metaphor, it's mine. A fantastic quilt.
It's funny right there. That's most people are like, that's his metaphor, not mine.
Yeah.
You're like, no, this is mine. I want credit.
Well, it's more, I don't want to misattribute something. Like, people are like, where did he talk about a quilt? It's like, no.
Sure.
Especially because if it's a bad metaphor, then I'm not going to say, oh yeah, it was his. No.
Why not?
Yeah.
Cause some chaos. Come on, man.
No, credit where credit's due. If I'm going to make a bad metaphor, I'm going to be,
I think it was
held
a good
accountable
metaphor. I
for
thought
it.
it was a good metaphor.
Yeah, but it's like if you have a quilt that's just like beautiful, built off of a lot of different like navy blue things from your life, and then you've got an emerald green, one singular patch of that in there. It's not directly contrary color, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in creation of differentiation. But it's also just a random color that's in there. It doesn't fit cohesively. And it's good to avoid that in a film. That said, this film did have a lot of beautiful shots and a lot of shots that fit the film, but there was one in particular where Jesse Brown and his wife are sitting on the beach before he's being deployed, and the camera then
Oh, I know
moves
exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about.
the camera then moves forward and like tilts down over the just like the small breaking waves at the end of the beach, and then it slowly transitions to the open ocean and then pans back up and you see an aircraft carrier, and it's just like we were both sitting next
Yeah.
to each other in the theater. We were like, that was a great shot.
Meanwhile, poor Cat.
Yeah.
Cat's on the other side of Aiden.
Yeah.
She's just like,
Yep. She's very much a STEM person. And she can appreciate, things, but she just doesn't care as much as we do, which is
very
fine.
funny.
It's fine. Yeah.
that's funny.
Nonetheless, yeah, it was a very gorgeously shot film. I think my favorite scene or sequence, the one that pops out to me, I think, might be before they're even in the Corsairs, when they're in the Wildcats and they're flying together for the first time, and Jesse's just kind of taking him around,
Yeah.
and it's a great. There's minimal dialogue in it, and it's essentially just a great way to establish Jesse's not your usual pilot. He likes to push himself, and he likes to push the people that he's around. Because the subsequent scene, I'll say his favorite sequence, because the subsequent scene that supports that, with Jesse's explanation as to why he did what he did, is pretty solid. It might seem a little formulaic to some, because it's like, oh yeah, he's got to show he's different or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, like I can understand that criticism, but I think within this film, that scene is a good catalyst for their relationship moving forward.
Yeah.
In the sense that the whole movie is about Jesse Brown and his wingman, and how his wingman can support him both in the air and out of the air. So it's a good nonverbal way to show new pairing of individuals that are eventually becoming friends that need to learn how to work together properly in a combat scenario and on the ground.
Yeah. I had forgotten about the water thing. Just thinking about it, brings a tear to my eye.
I was gonna say,
No, there were a few points in that movie where I was like on the verge of tears. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's an emotional film. I'm trying to think if there's any other war movies that have really had me like that invested.
Wow.
Definitely a little bit with Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And Black Hawk Down. But I think it's really just those two that have ever been that intense for me.
I think
To be clear, I haven't seen Full Metal Jacket.
Gladiator for me
Gladiator's good.
got me there. To an extent. But that was more just like, the empathetic anger of a man who has lost everything.
Yeah.
And is now just, it's the empathetic anger of like, you've lost everything and you deserve this redemption for yourself.
Right.
But then the subsequent support from those who had nothing to gain
Yeah.
and everything to lose from supporting him.
Right.
And I think that was fantastic.
Yeah. It's always interesting watching more recent war films as compared to, or war films about more recent wars versus medieval and ancient. And it's interesting, first of all, the change in, how much people are willing to like fudge. The more recent it is, the less willing people are to change things.
Yep.
Saving Private Ryan, well known for being extraordinarily realistic.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't a true story, right?
I don't believe so. No.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down, same thing. I remember seeing the true story of Black Hawk Down on History Channel and the actual movie, and how they were like, obviously they had to change slight things here and there for the sake of the narrative, to make it a coherent film, but they stayed true to the essence of it. They're very careful to not slander historical good guys.
Yeah.
And even historical bad guys. They make sure to like, the reason they're bad is the reason they're bad.
Yeah.
You go back and you watch a movie like Gladiator. Okay, actually, that was a pretty accurate portrayal of Commodus. Commodus kind of did basically everything he did in that movie, and he did die in a wrestling match with his personal wrestling partner, who was probably also his other kind of partner.
They
Rome.
They don't. Well, they don't acknowledge that in the film.
No, they do not.
No.
I think that probably would have broken some people's brains.
In 2000, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody was really aware of how gay Greece and Rome were.
No. A lot of people also forget how like un-okay that was
Yeah.
just as recently as 2000.
Yeah, it's weird talking to people who are a little bit younger than us, like
Mhm.
5, 10 years younger.
Yeah.
There is a gap. Like I told someone recently, I can't remember who it was. But I was like, yeah, I think a lot of people forget that gay marriage was only legalized in 2015.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
People who just like they're so young that they don't remember
Yeah.
that when we were in high school, that was not only was that like recent, it was not popular.
No.
Uh,
No.
like,
Well, people forget that like Brokeback Mountain
Mhm.
when it came out in 2005, it wasn't just that it was a really good movie. It's that like people were protesting it
yeah,
because it was like I don't want to say it's the first, but it was like in recent history the most prominent portrayal in recent history prior to like 2015, and after that with like
yeah, the idea,
Tangerine and stuff like that, like a,
the idea of a
movie about two gay men,
leading character,
yeah,
not let alone two gay men, but even a protagonist who's gay
yeah,
was unthinkable.
yeah,
And now it's becoming very common.
Yeah.
Which good.
Yeah,
Like,
why not?
like,
Yeah.
might as well have representation for everybody. Like, but it's wild to think back to. That was not that long ago. You and I would have been what 17, 16, 17 when that
Yes.
happened.
yes.
And people who are now 16, 17 do not remember
No, they were too young.
that was like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny if you hop on like Call of Duty, your proximity chat and stuff, and there's you never hear you always used to hear the 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
You never hear the 12-year-olds slurring at you anymore.
no,
Um,
it's only the people who were 12 back in 2012.
yeah, exactly. Like the people who were 12 when the original Modern Warfare 2 came out.
Yeah.
Then it's like you guys have PTSD as well. Everyone was banging your mom and
Yeah.
calling you the N-word. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a
The
waste.
good old days. Somebody did drop the hard R in a game the other night with us. That was
Really?
yeah. See, some people drop the hard R in Prox chat, and then there's me and the boys who are like, "Tell me why."
Oh,
We find people and we're like just singing Backstreet Boys
Yeah.
to them, like
chaotic bad versus chaotic good.
yeah, exactly. Oh boy, but yeah. So I mean, you look at these older movies, and what was I thinking of? Right. There was a reason my mind was on homosexuality. If you watch Braveheart,
Mhm.
for example, Edward Longshank's son is absolutely displayed as this effeminate homosexual who like could never possibly lead the kingdom, and
Yeah,
that was how he was portrayed
yeah.
in a lot of literature. But
Mhm.
stuff like that, like just the ways that people will go and just the things they used to be saying about people
Yeah,
and the things that they feel comfortable saying about people from those time periods. Now, of course, you couldn't get away with what you got away with in the 90s now.
Yeah.
But there have been so many changes in everything, and we're very willing with very old stuff to have more gray characters and deliberately evil characters and things. And more recent, it's they're less willing to do that. And I think that that's understandable because these people might have living relatives who
Yeah.
would feel like suing you. Nobody's going to sue you because
Yeah.
you slandered Edward Longshanks.
yeah, true.
In fact, if you slander Edward Longshanks, I salute you. Dude was not a good person.
Do you want to explain why?
He's responsible for what can only be described as war crimes against basically every single nationality in the British Isles who wasn't English.
Oh,
Scots, the Welsh, the Irish. He's responsible for something called the Statute of Rhuddlan, which made it illegal for Welsh people to speak Welsh anywhere but their own homes. Welsh people couldn't own land in England.
so as
He attempted genocides against against the Welsh and the Irish.
Yeah.
And if it were not for the fact that the Scots were kind of English, he also would have done it to the Scots. Like, not a good dude.
So as a Welshman and an Irishman, we have a lot of reason to hate this man.
Exactly. Not a good guy. I don't think he was responsible for the Statute of Kilkenny. I think that was too late for him. I forget specifically who that was, but it was the same. It was modeled off of the Statute of Rutland. Not a good guy. Did genuinely awful stuff. Also, somebody who film has portrayed as a good guy who wasn't, Henry V. I refuse to watch The King because I just cannot, I cannot give money. I cannot give views to somebody who portrayed Henry V as a good guy.
How did they portray him, and then what are the
He's
differentiations?
like this heroic, young king who managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat at Agincourt, when in reality it was just muddy. Like,
but why was he? What's wrong with him historically? That you
he also tried to genocide the Welsh.
like, a lot of people in England really don't like Wales.
No, they do not.
Why? Well, I guess it's just their innate need to conquer.
So the word Wales comes from the Old English word Welas,
Yeah.
which means foreigner. Consider,
Yeah.
the Welsh are the natives, and the English came over and then called the Welsh foreigners.
Yep.
The Welsh word for Wales is Cymru, which means the people.
Yep.
Means us.
Yep.
They also called the island Prydain, which means the people.
Yeah.
The Romans called it, the Greeks called it Britannia, Pretanoi. The Romans called it Britannia, and then it became Britain. So to this day, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland is named after the original inhabitants, and the English refer to a country that exists in the modern world on the island that culture originated as foreigners.
Even the Americans had the wherewithal to be like, yeah, they're the natives. Like,
Yeah,
they
like-
were here first.
Like, what do we call the native? Well, okay, to be fair, we did call them Indians for a while.
True, because everybody was like, oh, it's India.
The wrong continent.
Never mind.
But we do call them Native Americans now. That's been
Yes.
one weird thing, is how often I get, like, people on social media who are like, actually, it's First Nations, and I'm like, not here. You're Canadian.
Yeah.
Native American is a perfectly acceptable term in the United States right now, and it's
As
the
far
one
as
that,
we're aware,
it's the one that I'm told is preferred too.
Yeah.
In Canada, they do First Nations. I don't go up there and tell them actually they're Native Canadians.
No.
Like, screw you, Canada. Maybe be warmer.
Maybe be warm. Oh, they got
Half your country is ice.
they have Jared Kiso, so
True, Letterkenny is the best thing to come out of Canada.
is Letterkenny or is Shoresy the best?
I consider it the same universe. The Letterkenny cinematic universe is the best thing to come out of Canada.
I do love the fact that that statement can exist.
The Letterkenny cinematic
Yeah.
universe? Yeah. I love Letterkenny.
It's great. I think I do enjoy Shoresy more though.
Shoresy is good. It's a good, solid show.
I like the character. I love Wayne, but I think I enjoy the character of Shoresy even more.
Yeah. It is funny that for years they never showed his face.
Yeah.
And then they were like, we gotta make a show about him.
I love that, like, Kiso has such range where it's like Wayne is just this stoic, just like hurrying out, and then Shoresy's just like, for what? And just like he's extremely animated. And it's like, I think he cries like 4 different times in the series of 6 episodes that the one season is. It's great. I love it.
Oh my god, I love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess Ryan Reynolds as well.
What about him?
He exists and is Canadian.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
True, fair. All right.
don't know.
All right, Ryan.
I
Ryan
think,
is in History Daddy, not Reynolds. I don't
Fair.
think Ryan Reynolds is watching the program.
You never know.
Yeah, true. Ryan Reynolds, if you're watching,
How you doing? Can't wait for the next.
hi, I guess. Want to buy one of our scripts?
Please don't. Please, just if you're here, you better not be pulling our chain about Hugh coming back. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
DC might be pulling everybody's chain about Cavill coming back.
I have words
Do you want to say them?
that I shouldn't say
Say them.
if I eventually potentially
Okay, fair.
want a career in Hollywood.
Fair enough.
I
Fair
haven't
enough.
decided if I do yet, but just in case,
Fair enough.
I will not say the
I mean,
word.
at this point, it looks like our career might be in Dollywood, so
Yeah.
we're not
You know, having read an article about Dolly Parton this morning, I'm all game. I'm for it. I'm with it.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, we were talking about war movies.
Yes. I will say, in terms of Devotion's box office results, part of the
Disappointing.
reason... Yeah, well, disappointing for me, not anywhere close to unexpected.
What was the budget?
The budget was 90.
And what did it make?
17.
Really? That's upsetting.
That's why I was being so promotive on social media, because I knew, based off of the film, and based off of what I figured the budget probably was, which I assumed plus or minus $20 million, around $100 million, which is about right. It was $90 million budget. I knew it was never going to make that, just purely because of the film that it was. Yeah. People do not consider this worth going to see in a theater anymore. It's unfortunate, because I think these are the types of movies that are worth seeing in a theater.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you don't need to see Marvel movies in a theater.
No.
This was a theater movie.
Yeah.
This was like an Interstellar. Like,
yeah.
It's 1917, Dunkirk. Like, it's a movie that's best appreciated in the theatrical setting, where you're sitting there in your chair, you got the surround sound, the big screen. Like, it needs that. It's gonna be good to watch. You're gonna enjoy it if you watch it at home as well. But oh yeah, that's a good point. Norberto Rodriguez, thank you for the super chat. Said we missed War Horse. War Horse was good. War Horse made me cry.
I didn't see it. Oh, I totally forgot. No wonder why I love some of these movies. Prisoners, starring Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, in 2013. That was a Roger Deakins cinematography film. He did Skyfall as well. Blade Runner 2049, that's a masterclass in filmmaking in general.
I have not seen it.
I'm
about to say something that's going to get me in a lot of trouble. I do not like Blade Runner.
The original's not fantastic.
I love Harrison Ford.
Yes.
I actually enjoyed Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Yeah.
The book it's based off of.
If you like the book...
I did not care for the movie.
If you like the book, and you appreciated the movie like... if you enjoyed Devotion and you like the book...
Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Philip K. Dick.
You will very much enjoy Blade Runner 2049.
I'll watch 2049. I've seen the original.
It's much better than
I think the original is better without all the voiceovers. Ridley Scott.
It is.
What were you thinking?
That's a great question.
It also, I will say, it does not help that Harrison Ford clearly did not want to be doing the voiceovers. That is that is Harrison Ford's only flaw as an actor.
Yeah.
Is when he is not enthusiastic about something, it completely ruins the performance.
Oh, absolutely.
Except for Star Wars, he did solid in the original 3, and then you go and you see the sequels, and you're like, I see why he wanted to be killed off. He did not want to be here.
No. Well, here's the thing. Number one, you shouldn't have watched... I don't know who told you to watch that version. That's not the version you should watch. Number two...
No, that we were watching in class.
Got it. Yeah, that was a horrible...
We watched both.
The one with and without the voiceover? Got it. Okay.
It was a class on sci-fi literature.
Got it.
So, like, there was...
Fair. Yeah, I will say, Blade Runner 2049 is a really good story in and of itself. I will happily watch it with you at some point. We can do a discussion on that in and of itself. But, considering that Devotion was a film that had a $90 million budget and only pulled in $17 million at the box office, because of the way cinema has changed to the point where now it has become an event space of essentially amusement park rides, but visually, I think... It's sad but true to an extent. I do believe that we're going to start seeing less and less films that are not event blockbusters being in theaters.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Horror movies will still exist because
it makes
that's
communal. It makes you wonder, like, if Saving Private Ryan... Saving Private Ryan probably still would have, because it had Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But... And this goes back to what I was saying about star power. This is why star power is important. Because the fact of the matter is, if instead of starring Glenn Powell and Jonathan Majors, if Devotion had starred Brad Pitt and Cuba Gooding Jr., it probably would have made a lot more money.
Yeah.
There was no way they were going to get those actors with a $90 million budget. But had they had that, I think that's where Tarantino was right about what he said.
Yeah.
I think if they had somebody in there, because I'm never going to go see a movie just because Chris Evans is in it. you give me a pitch for a movie that I might be half interested in, and then you tell me it's got, God, who's a really big name right now?
Are we talking?
You know, screw it.
Timothée Chalamet?
You're gonna give me a comedy movie that sounds
Yeah.
but Ice Cube's in it. I'm gonna go see that movie.
Fair.
You give me a war movie and it's being led by Mark Wahlberg, like Lone Survivor.
Mm.
I probably would not have gone to see Lone Survivor in theaters if it didn't have Mark Wahlberg in it.
That's fair.
It's that kind of thing, you know? So I feel like it's gonna have to be some of these bigger name actors who are gonna have to save cinema
It's amazing.
by being willing to do movies for less money, you know?
I'm fascinated that Lone Survivor came out in 2013.
I'm not fascinated that it came out in 2013. I'm also not fascinated that it had a low budget because Mark Wahlberg does war movies, like true stories, for the sake of enshrining those people as heroes.
Yeah.
That Mark Wahlberg, like,
Great dude.
you know, I've heard mixed things about his personality, like, you know, interpersonally.
Yeah.
But as far as, you know, the work he does,
Yeah.
he's absolutely phenomenal guy, supportive of like so many like firefighters, veterans, you know, just really, really solid guy. I will absolutely support movies when he's in them. Same goes for Jon Stewart, who I disagree with on just so many things that he says. But he's done a lot of amazing work for the, you know, the firefighters and police officers who were present on 9/11.
Mm.
You know, that's the same kind of thing. I'm going to support what he does because I think that that's good, important work. But I think it's going to really fall on people who are doing things for the love of the art.
Yeah.
To prevent Hollywood from kind of going, well, all the money's in this.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it could be your civic duty as a movie star to every 5 years commit to do a movie that's like, you know, about firefighters on 9/11.
Yeah.
Or a movie that is about, you know, I don't know, like the Mali pictures in the Revolutionary War. Like,
Yep.
things where you can make a really interesting story, but the vast majority of people are going to need to see that name.
Yep.
To bother with going.
And I will say the one upside to it is most of the big names are big names because they are good actors.
Yeah,
So like,
definitely.
you know, it is a.
There are very few like big name actors out there right now who are trash.
Yeah. There are some
I'm trying to
actors.
think of some. I'm trying to think of one who is.
Well, I was gonna think there are some actors who play versions of themselves
Yeah.
versus some actors who like essentially disappear into a role.
Yeah.
Like,
Jared Leto needs to calm down.
yeah.
Jared Leto needs to relax.
Yes. Daniel Day-Lewis, essentially, he could, like, his work is phenomenal.
Daniel Day-Lewis could play Obama, and I'd believe it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like, his methods are a bit much
Yeah.
at times, but the
guy's amazing.
exactly. Like, the ends mostly justify the means at that point.
Genuinely phenomenal actor.
Yeah. But, like, I would say John Cena just plays variations of John Cena.
Yeah. There's a place for that.
There is.
Especially with somebody when you're looking for like a physique like that.
Yes.
Like one actor who I have nothing against him as a person, but
Yeah.
Dave Bautista needs to stay in his lane. I forget what the movie was, but there was something I read where Dave Bautista wanted to play somebody who he absolutely was not going to be able to play.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, just calm down. You know, I could, if I were to get into Hollywood, I would never accept a role as like a superhero because I'm 5'8", like 5'9", 5'8". Like,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work.
We
You know?
were-
Although Robert Downey Jr. is 5'8", so
Yeah. He just wore really big heels.
he's also like in a suit.
Yeah.
He's in a robot suit that adds a few inches.
Yeah.
So like I guess that, you know,
What did you ever see the BTS pictures of him on set during the Avengers movies?
when he's tiny.
No, when he's wearing the tall, like, the heels in order to, like, be in the same room as these guys.
Platform shoes.
Yeah.
It must be funny because, like, you know, Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans and all those guys are huge.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, the only other guy they have in the room who's not huge and playing a character is Mark Ruffalo, and he's the Hulk.
Yep.
Although Paul Rudd, but he also changes shot size. Like the only way that you can get a short guy to play a superhero is if their power is changing size.
Yeah.
I would abuse that. If I had the power to change size at will, I would be a menace.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like concerts, I would just grow.
Yeah.
And like if somebody was being mean behind me, like or like, complaining about like, not being able to see, I would just be like somebody's crowd surfing too much, they
Yeah.
get right over top of me and just shrink.
What would be the one? So I guess we can transition to question time, considering
It's almost time for that.
What would be the one superpower that if you could have, you would?
I think invisibility.
Really?
It just seems like the most useful.
How?
I don't know. If I answer that question, I'm gonna end up on a watch list.
Fair enough. It'd be helpful for journalism. Yeah. Mine's easily flight.
Yeah.
Not like wing style, like full on Superman style. Like I want to be able to just like
Zip.
I just want to be able to go up and like hit like Mach 4 and just fly around, and oh god, to be able to navigate the world in 3-dimensional space with no limitations would be fantastic.
I want to be able to reveal national security secrets for the sake of the American public.
Yeah.
We have different goals. That's
Yes.
the thing here. Like
The only problem is like I'd hope if I could get a package deal, I'd get like flight and invincibility, so that way I could like accidentally run into a mountain and be fine, or like fly to the moon. And just
flight
fly
without
there.
invincibility is.
It's risky.
To be clear, I said invisibility.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No. I was saying my own. Yeah.
I would absolutely make it my life's work to just like sneak into Bob Barr's house and like move everything a centimeter to the left.
Who's Bob Barr?
He's the guy who was Attorney General under Trump, but I'm not mad at him about that. I'm mad at him about Ruby Ridge and then Waco.
Fair.
Just every day he'd come home and like everything would just be slightly off. He would stub toes for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Or just like start replacing pictures that are in picture frames with like salami.
Or David Koresh. The burned bodies of the women and children he massacred.
Yep.
That's that kind of thing.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
In Minecraft, in case you're watching.
Oh, let's scroll.
Or I would also appreciate being able to go and like I don't know, I would just want to bother people, I think. I don't know what that says. I don't want to hurt anybody, but I do just want to kind of like slightly inconvenience bad people.
So you're chaotic neutral essentially.
I don't want to kill anybody.
Yeah. You just want to like when someone's trying to sleep,
Yeah,
just
like,
be invisible, just
yeah. Exactly. Like they'd be like, "What is that?"
yeah, get them freaked out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sneak into like Buckingham Palace and I don't know, like
Draw a
pour
mustache
water
on
on
the king's.
King Charles' bed or something
Yep.
and make him look like he peed himself.
Just consistently do that a few times a week
Yeah.
to make him believe he's having bladder trouble.
And he can't tell anybody because he's the king.
Oh, that's
And then I'd go do it to the Pope too.
yeah.
And then I would send letters to each of them, ostensibly from the other. That's like, hey, I'm also incontinent. And then we start a whole rumor that the Pope and the King are both incapable of controlling their bladders.
Yeah. How can they control entire sects of, monarchy and I was gonna say oligarchical rule, but
Replace every portrait in Xi Jinping's home with Winnie the Pooh.
yes.
Let's see. That picture of Putin where he's on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop it so he's got huge honkin' knockers, and then replace all of the pictures in his house with that.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna do the bear one, but
No.
yeah.
I'd probably just murder Kim Jong Un. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think anybody would have a problem.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that.
No.
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know.
Google, am I allowed to like suggest we kill dictators? Is that okay?
I think technically under the First Amendment, no.
well, the First
Well, you're
Amendment
not
doesn't really
inciting
apply
anybody to do it.
Google.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. No. Not inciting anybody to do it.
Exactly. You're just saying you want to, which is just
In Minecraft.
in Minecraft.
Precisely. In RuneScape, for example.
In CS:GO. Well, we
No,
have
I think my
questions.
power would be my power would be invincibility,
Yeah.
and I would challenge the leader of Mexican drug cartels to a cocaine off. I can't die.
I love how creative you are with these ideas too. Like that's fantastic.
Who can do the most cocaine?
Yep.
Whoever doesn't die wins and gets the cartel.
And they try and like mix. Well, I was gonna say mixing gasoline, but that's like how you make cocaine.
Yeah.
So
And like, once I got control of the cartel, I wouldn't use it for evil. You know?
No.
I would like, I don't know, like have them make trinkets, keychains. We'd give proceeds to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
and it's just going to work because they know that you can't be killed,
Yep.
but you can kill them.
Mm-hmm. What are they gonna do? Trap me?
They could.
Yeah, true. That would be that would be a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can never die, but you're stuck in a prison cell.
I challenged the guard to a cocaine off.
Why? Let's go back to cocaine. Cocaine.
Dude, I was at the bar last night and there were two dudes who were out of their minds on Adderall.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I was like, this does not, like, I don't do drugs. This does not seem like a fun drug to do, though. Like, they just seemed so focused on the most minute things. I was like, this can't be fun.
It depends. Some people that is fun. It's when you don't have ADHD, it makes more sense.
Yeah. When
But we
I
do.
am under the influence of, like, alcohol, for example, I like that because I don't think as much.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing a drug that makes me think more.
Yeah.
Like, that seems... No. Like, I do enough thinking as it is. I do so much thinking that my brain, like, freaks out.
Yep.
I have to be on drugs for it.
Yeah.
Like, prescribed ones.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Anyway.
Super Chats.
History Daddy with the first one for £2 says Iron Man is
Is
the
that
best
actually the
superhero.
first one?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't show all the way up to the top.
I believe so. Yes, because up here it's like back early. Or
Yeah,
like
we'll see.
streams,
Yeah, you can always pull up the...
If we're wrong, let us know.
All right, if this is not the first Super Chat, then somebody tell us and
Correct,
we'll go look
yes.
for it.
Iron Man is the best superhero. This is factual.
It's true.
Wholeheartedly disagree. John Guido the Fourth.
Superman.
I do. John Guido the Fourth for 1999 says, "Did you guys ever see Everything Everywhere All at Once? We have not.
I did not.
I didn't.
I heard great things,
Yeah, we could
but I
just,
have
like,
not seen it.
scoot.
True.
I'm gonna scoot. Calling the official data for 999 says Iron Man 3 is some of the best depiction of post-traumatic stress of the effect on the person along with those around them in a way that I think was able to show that it is to those that don't have it. Yes, I
Yeah,
fully
good point.
agree. Having
thought about
watched a couple of those scenes again recently, I thought it was really fantastic the way they depicted that. Also, the relationship between Tony and Piper was really like solid. Like his honesty and his willingness to be open with her, I think, was really fantastic and a very healthy way to show relationships. When a lot of film nowadays is focusing on how you can make as much conflict in a scene as
definitely
possible,
missed.
and I think it's great when you can bring in a healthy relationship to an extent like that.
I feel like we definitely missed some. Hang on.
Let me check. I don't think
Yeah, it's sometimes the chat doesn't
mine. Yeah,
show everything properly, so what you gotta do is you go... Come on. Come on. Come on. This is why we need, like, a Jamie.
yeah. Remember when I was gonna be a Jamie and then I became a co-host.
That's not it. Supers. See all. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go.
All right. Well, now we know.
Let's see.
Mist Warhorse, good movie. We addressed that one. Also forgot Jarhead. I don't know what Jarhead is.
Nor do I.
I will have to look it up. Pixel Music for £5 said, I talked to a friend about the ability to send ketchup apart from... Sorry. I talked to a friend about how the ability to sin sets us apart from animals without free will. It felt really nice when he saw merit in what I said. Oh, that's good. I love hearing theological successes.
I think that's interesting.
What?
Do
you think Archie is capable of sinning?
Does Archie not have free will?
He doesn't have brain cells.
But does he not have free will?
I don't know. Archie, do you have free will? Are you asleep?
Yeah, he's not.
He just twitched. He's asleep.
Yeah, he is very much asleep.
Oh, what a boy.
Is that canonical? I would imagine animals have free will.
It's a different kind of free will, I suppose. It's like sentience, I think. Is really the gap here.
Yeah.
Like if chimps started to like talk, I think we'd have to tell them about Jesus.
Well,
I think that as a Christian, that would be my duty.
Well, you know that they know sign language, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they have... That's more of like a communicating basic wants and needs, not high-level thoughts. Right?
Orangutans are supposed to be incredibly intelligent. Like they can have actual conversations.
Well, now we've got to go proselytize to the orangutans, so thanks for that.
Also,
now we're starting a new religious war where the Christians and the Muslims are going to be fighting over who gets to have the monkeys. Stop it. No.
I was going to give a disclaimer.
The orangutan.
There we go. I was going to give a disclaimer. The actual animals.
You're going to get us taken off the air.
We need to be careful, okay?
I understand. I know.
People will take anything out of context.
Yeah, Momlennial's sitting here watching my videos like, what can I get him on?
Exactly. I'm looking out for you.
Yeah, I know. You're the one who keeps doing racism.
I talk... Aliens! I was talking about aliens from space!
Norberto Rodriguez Jr., $5. What I like about Warhorse is the humanity of all the characters and the portrayal of the Germans not being evil, just human. Yeah, I think that's an important thing that World War I movies have done to be distinct from World War II. World War II movies, you kind of can just paint all the Germans as bad guys. World War I was not a race issue.
No.
It was a nationality issue. It was a system of alliances. It was economics. There were no good guys and no bad guys in World War I, just like there were no good guys and bad guys in the Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah.
There was a very obvious good guy, bad guy situation in the American Revolution, as we all know.
Yes. That was the most...
And the War of
in all
1812.
Humanity,
yeah, exactly.
I will say, though, that it brings up a good point, because I was actually just having this conversation with Kat in the food court at the outlets when we were shopping today. Mm-hmm. The Milgram experiment that occurred in the when was that?
Is this the experiment, like electrocute people experiment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Milgram experiment was an experiment where individuals were brought in, and they were essentially being told that they were in charge of shocking an individual that was on another side of a wall. And it was to test them on knowledge about certain things. And every time that person got something wrong, they were told that they must increase the voltage and shock them. Now, the highest voltage on that meter was far beyond what could kill someone. And every time that someone got it wrong, they had to turn it up. They physically had to turn it up and shock them. And they continuously did this, and they could hear the responses of the person on the other side, so that's when they knew whether or not they got something right or wrong. And as they increased the voltage more and more, they could then hear the people on the other side of the wall pleading, begging for the person who was running the experiment to stop because they were in pain, it was hurting them. And oftentimes, to the point where there was no further response because the voltage had exceeded the amount which would kill someone. Mm-hmm. The reason that these random individuals who were put in this situation would do these things is because they kept being told by a scientist in the room, you must continue the experiment. This is vital. The data is vital for the the needs of the experiment. And the whole purpose of the Milgram experiment was to try and understand how normal German people could be made to do such horrid things to other civilians, essentially. And what the theory proved was, given the presence of an overwhelming authority, even if it's just one individual who you look up to as someone who has some form of notoriety or authority above you at some extent, if you are in a situation where you are being told you are doing something for a greater good or for a good reason, for a scientific reason, this, that, or whatever, you then psychologically will pass along any guilt that you would feel from that action to the authority. And you are quite literally capable, normal human beings are capable of killing someone because they can pass off the blame.
Yep.
And so it's a really fascinating thing because it really highlights that all humans are fallible, and which is something obviously the Bible harps on, as we're all sinners, but it's important to remember that like you have to be careful, because in any given scenario, if you're not thinking about what's happening, you could find yourself in a situation where you're doing something that you normally would never do.
Like all 1,400 or 1,714 ATF agents.
There's only
1,714 ATF agents.
Yep.
There's only 1,714 ATF agents.
Do with that information what you will.
And there's 350 million of you.
Anyway, so
yeah,
just interesting concepts and interesting thoughts.
How many Roombas do you think there are in the United States?
Stop. Oh, I don't know if he's here, but if anybody has not yet rung the Wendigoon bell, I think he might enjoy this conversation.
Oh my god. Yeah, Milgram experiment, kind of prophetic, really. Ryan Whitcop says, I feel you could benefit from time manipulation. See, I would be irresponsible about time manipulation.
You know what I was thinking about today?
Like, I would affect the course of human events.
Yeah.
Aggressively.
I know. You know what I was thinking about today? You know how the current scientific theory is that things cannot go past the speed of light in a vacuum. Obviously, the speed of light changes in different mediums, but in a vacuum, it has that set, speed generally.
Yes, space magic.
Yes. And you know how the current theory is that the best way to be able to travel at a speed faster than the speed of light
Just to fold space?
is to fold space.
Yes. Take the empty and fold it in on itself.
Yes.
That makes sense. I understand quantum physics.
Well, I was thinking about this today. If you did that,
could make a space taco.
yes. But think about it for instance. If you are actually physically taking all of space and shrinking it on itself so that way you could go from one point to another very quickly, you would have to pull so much of matter together so fast that if you didn't make a singularity then, when you made your little jump from one point to the other and then turned off the warp thing and everything sprung back to what it was, like the absolute catastrophic toll on the solar system, galaxy, and universe that could have, let alone like you could create a literal supermassive black hole depending on the size or the
Wasn't
amount
there
of
like just an experiment where they ran a simulation on this and it worked? Like in a computer?
Yeah. I don't know if it worked, but they did do a simulation. Let me check. But I was just thinking, it was like,
I am so out of my depth here. I can barely do algebra.
fair. But I was just thinking, it's like the ramifications that are possible if you're bending, or really in that case, like, hyper fixating like density in a small volume of space. Like, if it doesn't create a black hole by some magical capability, the snap back alone, it would be like, well, I feel like in my mind it was immediately the equivalent of a tsunami. You would essentially create a tsunami of stars. Yeah.
Tsunami of Stars would be a sick band name.
It would.
Too bad we already have Pity for the Gourd.
True.
Let's see. John Guido 4 said, in regards to enjoying bugging people, I go to the cafe that's down the street from me and slowly push papers and menus off the counter while they take my order. They are all my friends. Good clarification, because I was about to yell at you. Tommy used to come in to Poor Richard's and demand that I make him a sandwich, and there was nothing I could do to stop him because he would hand me $8.
Wait, what was this?
Tommy would come into Poor Richard's
and
demand that I make him a sandwich and then pay me. So I had to make him a sandwich.
Yeah. Because it was your job.
It was my job.
Yep.
Yeah.
We need to go to Poor Richard's more. I say that, but we have Steel City literally like...
Poor Richard's is better.
Yeah, it is.
But you know who's got the best coffee?
We do.
Mount Pocono Perk from Tableau Roasting Co. Go to tableauroastingco.com and go to collaborations and order Mount Pocono Perk. You will not be disappointed.
Did we get any more of that recently?
I have some coming.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Bobby, all right, says, turn the cartels into aggressive Bible salesmen. Mexicans are very religious, to my understanding.
They are. Yeah, they're very Christian.
Very, very Catholic, I believe. That might work.
Probably.
That might work. Also, that was not a stereotype, and it was not a bad thing either. It's just I know that Mexico is very Catholic.
Yes.
Okay, Pumpkin Bear 7 says, power to bring anything from video games into IRL. Also, very, very easy to abuse. I would have a Pokemon so fast. What?
Again.
You walk in here, Archie's vibing with a Pikachu.
Pika.
That'd be cute. I love that, again, the destinations that your mind leaps to, fascinating. Of all the games.
You wouldn't want a Pokemon?
Oh, of course I
I
would.
have a Charmander upstairs. Like, there's like an actual life-size Charmander plushie upstairs.
It's life.
Yeah, it's a life-size.
I don't know.
It's a life-size Charmander plushie. I'll go get it.
I guess. Well, we did play a lot of non-overlapping games when we were young. I will continue to read. Did you read the one from Bobby that said go watch Jarhead right now? Okay. Ryan Whitcup for $2 says, parrots talk, do we tell them about Jesus? Yeah. His answer was yeah, if you didn't hear it. That Dexy guy for $5 says, any legit cryptids in southern England? I figured I should make the best of being stationed here, and I can only drink so much. That's cute. Hang on, I'm going to move this so that way.
Yeah, just click that.
Okay. Yes. That is adorable. It's very soft.
It's life-size. They have the real ones in Japan.
The what?
I don't know. These guys wander around the wilderness in Japan, I'm told.
Apparently we need to make a trip to Japan.
For size comparison, Aiden, it is the size of Archie.
Love that. Are Pokemon technically cryptids?
I don't know. Oh, calm down. Okay, there we go.
Wonderful. He's our own little Pokemon.
Yeah. Or, I mean, he does kind of look like the Eevee.
I guess. I was never a big Pokemon kid.
I see. Yeah. Trying to curl your tail in so you're not.
But yeah, any legit cryptids in southern England?
The Woodwoes is one that gets mentioned a lot. Woodwoes is one of the wild men of the forest. Ryan, do you have a video on Woodwoes? I thought you said you did. Oh, look at you. You're such a good boy.
Pixel Music for £5 says, free will wasn't the best choice of words. I more meant higher level decision making in opposition to the way animals choose what they do.
Yes, I agree.
Fair.
Yeah, that's that's kind of what I figured you meant. Simply put, we need a Gigantopithecus Pope.
I will say this is an interesting point. Gamer says, my great-grandfather was in the German army during World War II, and I've always had to explain the difference between a Nazi and a German soldier.
Yeah.
There's a difference. A lot of them were just surviving.
Yeah. Still not great.
No.
But I do reserve judgment when people say that their grandparents or great-grandparents were German soldiers in World War II. There's a difference between an SS officer and, some 18-year-old kid who joined the war to fight for his country.
Yeah. Because there was not social media back then. It was even our parents' generation.
That's the other thing too, is you have to remember that the only media Germans were consuming from like 1936 onwards was whatever propaganda wanted them to.
Yeah.
So,
you couldn't know unless you'd actually seen something yourself or someone you trusted had witnessed or heard something or something along those lines. Like now we are able to see everything around the world, but like I've had recent conversations with my parents where even things that happened in the 80s and 90s when they were in their like 20s and 30s, I'm watching like documentaries or movies or something that were based about that, like Bhopal,
Mm.
which was there's a movie called Bhopal: A Prayer for Rain, which is about a chemical plant in India in the 80s that was very poorly managed and poorly run, and they had a chemical spill that was going into the atmosphere that killed over 10,000 people in 72 hours.
Jeez.
And my parents were like, how did we not hear about this? Like this, all
It
these.
doesn't just. It's not just stuck to that. Like the Gulf of Tonkin incident
Yeah.
was totally fake. U.S. faked it to get us into Vietnam.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the CIA just totally came up with it. Like
Yeah.
BS.
Propaganda is a lot
It's
harder.
thought
to do
that the
now.
USS Maine may have been one of the earliest false flags in American history in 1899.
Really?
Yeah. 1898, 1899. You good boy. You know, you gotta remember that the stuff you hear is not necessarily true.
Yep.
Even today. Like,
I mean, and that goes for everywhere on the internet.
Yeah. if you're in China, it's definitely not true.
Yes, unfortunately. Kellen, the official data for 499 said, look into the strip search hoax that happened in 2003 in Kentucky. That one completely happened over the phone.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
We will. Pixel Music said, simply put, we need a
Yeah, I read that one. Gigantopithecus.
Gigantopithecus pope. Remind me what that is?
It was a 10-foot tall primate.
Ah, yes, right. Now that is ringing bells.
Very gigant.
Very big boy.
Big boy.
Is
run with the big boys.
Is for member for 12 months. Oh my god, happy 1 year.
God, happy 1 year.
Said, tell Archie I miss him and give him scritches for me, pretty please. Also, Mattis, you can unalive any dictator you want in The Sims, and it's legal.
Ah.
Well,
Ha
we found a cheat code.
Ha
Haven't
ha.
we, Archie?
Archie's actually murdered several dictators.
Yeah.
He's a good little assassin. Yes, he is.
Mostly with his breath.
Yes. You could kill a small village with a wide open mouth.
His breath smells so much like salmon right now. Which is my fault. I fed him salmon. Which keeps his coat silky soft.
We do love that.
He's got
Does it do that for humans as well?
I don't know. I'm sure salmon would be good for your hair.
Anyway, Max Waters for $4.99 says, hey guys, haven't watched in a while, but I've been binge watching Supernatural because of you guys. Fantastic show. That is the best thing we could hear.
It's a great show.
Fantastic. It is.
I did I finally caved into the AI art thing.
Yep.
And the first one it came out with was basically me as Dean Winchester.
Yep.
And I was like, all right.
Yep, fitting.
Fair enough.
Jermaine, yeah, that show has influenced both of us in our lives a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Jermaine Henry for $4.99 says, hey guys, I just finished binging all your podcasts, and I found you from Wendigoon's channel. I just wanted to say thanks for all the great content. First live.
Thank you.
First of all, thanks for coming by. Wendigoon's a good friend of the show and a good friend of ours at this point, so we're glad that people who enjoy his content enjoy ours. Welcome. Thanks for binging all the podcasts, and we hope you like the rest of the content that we have and that we will have coming soon.
Yeah.
What else we got? Cakes for $4.99 says, I know I've asked before, but could we still get a vampire lore video for personal reasons? We do plan on doing one at some point.
Yeah, part of the issue, I started working on one a couple months ago. The issue was vampire is a broad topic.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to break down vampires not just by continent but by country,
Yeah, that's fair. But if
or
we
at the
ever...
very least like the cultural region, because Slavic vampires are different from Celtic vampires, or different from Nordic vampires.
We're gonna have to do the same thing with dragons if we do that.
Yeah.
Have we?
We
No.
I don't think we've done dragons.
I don't think so. We've done a lot of videos. It's hard to keep track now. Matt Bly for New Zealand, $5
Ooh.
says, first time being able to see some of the pod live. Welcome. Have you guys looked into anything to do with Maori beliefs from New Zealand? Or Maori beliefs from New Zealand?
I think it's Maori.
Maori?
Right?
Probably. I'm assuming I'm wrong.
I would-
think it,
I haven't, but I would absolutely do that. One of my favorite things about the Mandalorian series and Boba Fett is that it, like the Boba Fett one specifically, they those wooden weapons that the Sand People use,
Mm-hmm.
those are based off of traditional Maori weapons.
Oh, really?
And Tamira Morrison, who's Maori,
Yeah.
makes one like in the
Oh,
show.
really?
Yeah, he makes his own.
Oh, that's cool.
So he got to like it was just it's a really cool cultural moment. Like I love when you see Welsh and like Irish and Italian stuff
Yeah.
in TV and movies, and I can only imagine how fun that was, not just
yeah.
for him, but for all the Polynesians who got to because obviously Maori is one of many Polynesian subcultures, like the same way that you got Germans and Austrians and like all these they probably all felt represented by that.
I would hope so. Yeah.
It's just very cool of Disney to actually do that. For once, Disney was cool.
Pumpkin Bear from 199 said, "I want an IRL Rapidash, or is there a dog cryptid, or I mean, technically,
A
Skid
dog
Row?
cryptid? Well,
Yeah,
the dog man,
Chupacabra?
the Adlet, the dog man,
Yeah.
Chupacabra, the Mexican Chupacabra, not the Puerto Rican. Puerto Rican Chupacabra is reptilian.
What about the Palmyra wolves?
That I fit in with dog man.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots
Uh,
of anthropomorphic dog cryptids.
Skinwalker, technically. Depending.
The Animagus from Harry Potter, I guess, might count. There are definitely cryptids that are straight up dog based. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
Werewolf.
Yeah, and then you've got the Kushtaka, which is an otterman.
Fort Lockup. You're good.
Yeah. I think it's actually Kushtaka. I was told.
Ah,
I've been pronouncing it wrong.
it happens. Uno Mas from Norberto Rodrigo Jr. Honestly, that was an unintentional Spanish transition. I did not realize that. Anyway, $5.
The Spanish transition sounds like an indie film about
About the
about transgenderism or something.
oh
Like I don't know, like this. Yeah.
oh I thought it sounded to me more like the Inquisition, but
Oh God.
yeah. Anyway, sorry to ask, but when is the next Weird Bible podcast? To make note on my schedule, don't want to miss
I
it.
believe next Thursday.
Cool. I'm
I think.
excited.
I think. Unless it's this Thursday.
We'll get back to you.
It's either this Thursday or next Thursday, but I know Isaiah's currently shooting a movie,
Yes.
so. Battle Los Angeles? What?
Mm.
I love Battle Los Angeles is a great movie. It was ridiculous.
I don't know if I've seen the full thing.
You know what was a weird movie? District 9.
It
Weird
was.
alien movie.
It was.
I know it was supposed to be like a allegory for apartheid,
Mm-hmm.
but not being South African, I didn't get it.
Fair. Your least favorite YouTube channel for $10 says, "Speaking of flying, lucid dreaming is a practice. Wormholes remind me of planning for a goal. Gamma waves, question mark, question mark, question mark. I'll race you to the nearest black hole trifecta." Sounds great. I'm in.
There's a lot of words.
That was like Isaiah's response to me about like the
Yeah.
editing and like color correcting.
Yeah.
I sent him this long text. It's like, hey, like just so you know, I underexposed so that way you could like bump the all this or whatever. And the only thing I got back was, wow, none of those words are in the Bible.
Yeah. It's probably true.
Yeah, I don't
Considering
think...
the Bible came out before cameras.
Yes,
Fun fact.
yes. I finished that Thomas Jefferson book
Mhm.
this weekend, and
And exactly what was Thomas Jefferson known for a little bit?
yeah. So aside from the point that I was about to make, good old Jeffy boy, I have the picture here actually, and so I can read the quote. Uno momento, por favor, mi amigos. That was the worst Spanish anyone has ever said. The quote is, the inexact state of knowledge at the time and the speculation arising led to a good deal of partisan ridicule from the Federalist side. Jefferson...
Federalist.
Did I not say
I said
Federalist?
Federalist.
No, my bad. I dropped a couple letters there. Jefferson was portrayed as a crackpot, believing in mythical animals and the existence of giants and monsters. In fact, he did not entirely disbelieve in some rumors from the interior.
Roosevelt also was a little bit superstitious about Bigfoot. The cool Roosevelt, not the boring Roosevelt in the wheelchair who put Japanese people into concentration camps.
Yeah, that's no good.
No matter how many times we refer to them as internment camps, it does not change the fact that they were concentration camps.
No, it does not. But yeah, so Jefferson believed in giants and
Yep.
things of rumored to be in the American interior.
All right, what was the other thing you were going to say?
The other thing was that I was going to say was related to Jefferson. That was about something. Finished the book. Guess it wasn't that important. Pumpkin Bear 7 for 49 says, I saw a dog cryptid when I was 10 and I was living in Oregon. I don't mind sharing the story. I'm trying to figure out what I saw back then.
Shoot an email to lorelodge@gmail.com.
Please do.
I know I keep saying that to people and then not actually answering them, but
We'll get there.
the semester ends this week, and then I will have a lot more time. Priority number one is go through email account and Patreon messages.
Yep.
You're a good boy. How many dogs?
Not many.
How many dogs would do this?
Not many.
He's just vibing. What a good boy.
He is so happy.
But that is another thing that we can actually probably mention now that teasers have been released on Twitter. Keep an eye on Wendigoon's channel
Yes.
in the coming probably 2 weeks, and our channel because we're gonna have something as well. But
Nice.
we got something fun coming.
Yes. I haven't seen any of the teasers, but I'm excited.
He's so done with me.
Yep.
I love this animal.
It's hard not to.
I love this animal. He's so good.
Is that she emailed us a year ago and hasn't heard back.
Are you sure you haven't heard back?
Well, you've heard back, just not in the email.
Yeah, not via email. Okay. Oh, and for those of you who are in the chat but not in the Discord, should probably grab a link to the Discord for everybody.
Oh, but
Unless one of the mods wants to send it, because it's going to take me a second to get Discord open.
did you
Installing update 1 of 15. Yeah, if you could send a link to the Discord.
Did you by chance look at that document?
The rubric? No. I will. I keep saying I will. You know I have papers due in 2 days.
No, it's a page. It's like half a page.
I will look at it tonight before you leave.
Wonderful. We're gonna put out a rubric for the essays, and hopefully get that done soon.
I am going to commit war crimes.
Yeah, Discord's tough.
Are you gonna send a link? Because I went to get one and it wouldn't. I have to log into Discord again.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
she
have
she
TFA.
dropped the link, yeah.
oh, cool. Can I pin that from here? Or do I have to go into the?
I can pin it. Hang
Oh, right, you're a mod.
on. Pin's not an
Look at
option.
Pin's not an option. Maybe I'm the only one with that option. Maybe I'm special like that. Hmm.
It would seem.
Where'd it go? Imagine not being me. Get got.
That's all I can imagine.
Get Swifty.
Gotta get Swifty in here.
I was gonna put you down, but I guess you don't feel like doing
You
that.
have liquid coming out of your nose, sir.
Yeah, that happens. Oh.
It might drip on you a little bit
It's
there.
okay if you grip. I spilled coffee on this shirt earlier. You wanna get down? You wanna get down? You wanna go hang out with Charmander? Oh boy. Alright.
Good line.
With that, it is 8:34. It
Bless
said you're definitely special. I don't know who that was addressed at. War crimes in Minecraft?
It's been a lot of those.
There's been a lot of war crimes. It's not a war crime if it's the first time. Nah, because the Holocaust was a war crime. And it was also the first time they did that.
Well, it wasn't the first genocide.
But it was the first Holocaust.
Yeah.
It was absolutely not the first time they tried to do it to the Jews either.
No.
But on that scale,
yes.
people just keep trying to murk the Jews.
People really hate Jewish people for some reason.
I gotta ask the question. If you're supposed to be the master race, why are you having such a hard time getting rid of the Jews? Like, have you considered that you're not? That maybe you're just, like, German?
What was that one? Hang on. That's a psychological phenomenon as well.
Like, yeah, we're We're absolutely, God's chosen. We just can't get rid of the people who claim to be God's chosen. It's not a war crime if it's against the French. True.
Fair. Hang on. There is a.
It's not a war crime if it's against the French because the French aren't people. French people is an oxymoron. I don't know what the French would qualify as. Archie, what you doing? Also, I hope Morocco beats France. I don't know about y'all if you're paying attention to the World Cup, but why do French tanks have rear view mirrors?
That's great. Okay, all right, yeah. So it was the Festinger example where a psychologist went to a cult where they were planning to be essentially evaporated and the world was going to die and they were going to ascend into some essentially equivalent of heaven. And when that obviously didn't happen, everybody just believed more. And it was an example of cognitive dissonance in the sense of you hold two conflicting beliefs at the same time. One of them is inevitably going to win because it creates like this weird rift in your brain. And so for them to find cerebral center, essentially, they just doubled down on the belief. It was, oh, this excuse must have happened and that's why it didn't work. So it's going to happen next time. And it just kind of kept happening like that.
Wait, so what this experiment showed is that if you pay somebody $20 for something, they're more likely to do it than if you pay them $1?
No, that's a different thing.
Okay.
That was a different experiment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something Festinger did after.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've discussed war
Mrs.
crimes
Peach,
and cognitive
that's
dissonance,
What was the name?
I think it's time to end the show.
I would agree.
Yeah, we will be back next week. We had a different topic planned for tonight and decided to push it to next week so we can complete more research.
Yep.
Which is why you got something that was so out of left field.
Yep. Because we like to be thorough.
But yeah, the one we're doing a video on is something that we're quite passionate about, so we want to make sure that we really get all the details right and give you guys the full story. So next week we're going to be covering the missing and murdered Indigenous women phenomenon.
Yep.
I have a good amount of notes, but we wanted to do a little bit more for it. So you guys are going to be getting a video on that Friday? Probably.
That's the plan.
Yeah, you guys will be getting a video on that Friday and then a podcast on it Sunday. And then just a heads up, Christmas is on a Sunday this year, right?
Correct.
We will not be doing the stream on Christmas because it will be Sunday.
Yep.
New Year's Eve.
It's also a Sunday.
Is it a Sunday? No, it's a Friday. Saturday. New Year's Eve is a Saturday.
Oh, New Year's Day is Sunday.
Yeah.
Right.
New Year's Eve is in the air. If we do it, it'll probably be more like a lore lounge thing where we'll probably just set the mic in here with a bunch of chairs and have a rotating cast of characters coming in to hang.
That'll be fun.
Which I think would be fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I'm gonna sound old as hell, but I don't know if I'm feeling the bars this year for New Year's Eve.
Like maybe.
Yeah.
But...
All right. So yes, Merry Crisis, everybody.
Merry Chrysler.
We will see you next weekend.
Adios.